Hello and welcome. If you haven't already, I invite you to please click subscribe. There's no obligation, and it allows you to be notified of all new chapters. Additional information about the story, including the author, chapter warnings, and rating, can be found in the description below. All credit goes to the original author. Bleeding Skies by Orphan Account. Chapter 8. The Fever. It's quiet in the plane, except for the elaborate breathing of their patient and the voice of the doctor trying to save him. Stiles, Dr. Wills speaks, addressing him directly. You will feel a sharp pain. As soon as the needle and tube are in, you will be able to breathe better again. Try to stay awake. But if you feel like you're going to pass out, that's okay. Your body will decide for you. Stiles nods. He says it's fine, Scott speaks out loud. Good. Lydia, he's all yours. Lydia's fingers tremble as she holds the syringe tight, focusing on Stiles' chest without looking at his face. You ready? Stiles nods again. Okay, here goes. Slowly but surely, Lydia pushes the needle into Stiles' chest. The teenager groans and instinctively tries to fight her off, but he's stopped by Derek and Liam's firm grip as they hold him tight, clearing the area for Lydia. No, Stiles cries out. Don't. I'm sorry, Lydia says, refusing to stare at him. She proceeds, focusing on her job instead of the person. As the needle sinks further into his skin, flesh, and then lung tissue, Stiles' eyelids flutter and close, and his entire body relaxes, finally sinking into welcoming darkness. Quickly, Lydia continues, prodding until she hears the telltale sound of escaping air. Then she releases the needle, pulling it out swiftly and pushing the tiny tube in place, taping it in between sterile pads onto Stiles' chest with Scott's help so it won't slide out. Instantly, they hear a difference in Stiles' breathing, even when he's passed out. It's working, Derek reacts, happily surprised at Lydia's work. You did it. You actually did it. Relieved, the group leans back, watching Stiles' still form quietly move, his chest reacting positively to the tube. Malia gently touches Stiles' cheek, patting him to wake him up, but he doesn't react, sending her into a state of panic. Stiles! Stiles! She cries out, trying to shake his exhausted, unconscious body. Why isn't he waking up? What's wrong? Malia, he's fine. He just needs some rest now, Scott says gently, placing a blanket over Stiles' legs and chest, covering him up. The plane's belly is increasingly getting colder, even with the door closed. In a few hours, they'll be freezing out here. How is our patient doing? Dr. Wills asks with a tense voice. He passed out, Lydia replies, but the tube is in place and he's breathing less shallow. Relieved sighs and voices return from the other side of the intercom. Several people have now gathered to follow the events. Good. That's very good, the doctor continues. But we're not out of the woods yet, so to speak. Do you have a thermometer in the kit? Can you check his fever? No thermometer, Derek replies, but he's burning up. We couldn't find syringes with medication or anything like that. The kit was only half full. There needs to be more. The kit should have carried much more medical supplies. I'll go check, Liam says, going to the back of the plane to rummage through the equipment and boxes. His fever concerns me, Lydia admits. I think he might have seizures if we don't get it down. Agreed, Dr. Wills replies. Okay, you need to get those fevers down. Is there a source of water in the area? Not that we know of, Scott replies. We don't think so. I have half a bottle of water left, Lydia says, pointing at the bottle she used earlier. Is there a way of cooling him down? Scott desperately looks around for something, anything, to help. No, he says, I don't know, just the water. Keep him cool. Try to apply some cold cloths on his face and chest. It'll help. Don't cover him too much with blankets. It's getting cold in the plane, Lydia retorts. We can't risk hypothermia. That won't happen, Dr. Wills reassures them. If you dress him lightly, just enough not to catch a cold, he'll be fine. But the fever's troubling me more at the moment. Got it, Liam cries out, returning with a third box filled with medical supplies. There's a saline drip in the kit, Lydia says excitedly. I could try to get that in. Perhaps it might help. It will definitely help keep Stiles' strength up, right? Have you ever inserted a needle in a vein before? Dr. Wills asks. No, but I've never punctured a man's lung before either, Lydia says. I've had my fair share of hospital visits. It can't be that difficult, right? Dr. Wills laughs nervously. If you are up for trying, be my guest. I'll guide you through it. Make sure you get a good vein, either in the crook of his elbow or his hand. Do you know how to search for one? Dr. Google and Gray's Anatomy, Lydia retorts, a wry smile on her face as the others stare at her as if she's gone mad. What? She replies, shrugging slightly. I love watching medical shows. More secrets come to surface, Malia grins. Well, these secrets might just about save Stiles' life, Derek retorts, his eyes fixed on Lydia. So we won't hold it against you later on. The strawberry blonde, intelligent girl sticks out her tongue before returning to the very serious here and now. Scott leans back as he watches Lydia gently tap Stiles' hand, knowing Stiles is in good hands with Lydia. He's got big veins on his hands, she says. I should be able to get a needle in there. He's passed out, so if I have to try a couple of times, at least he won't feel it. Dr. Wills laughs. Good bedside manners, Lydia. Sleeping patients can't complain, right? She retorts. Lydia quickly follows the doctor's instructions as he guides her through the process, preparing the drip, while the others follow her moves. Then, as she pushes the needle in from the first attempt, they all stare at her in awe. That was amazing, Malia whispers. I adore you, I swear. Lydia looks up, smiling happily while Scott tapes the needle into place. I'm still debating to become a medical doctor, she confesses. That or a scientist, or a mathematician. You can come work for me at any time, Dr. Wills chants through the speakers, but I think you'll wind up in some fancy university hospital by the sound of it. Lydia just shrugs, her eyes focusing on Stiles' unconscious form. Only if the patients aren't friends, she whispers, feeling the weight of what she just did on her shoulders. She trembles all of a sudden, realizing what just took place. Her hands cramp, her fingers become stiff and useless. Oh God, she mutters, leaning back against the seat as she stares shocked at Stiles, taking in the tube in his chest and the IV she just put in. You're okay, Scott quickly says, grabbing her tight. You saved him, Lydia. She looks up, tears filling her eyes. I could have killed him. But you didn't. Scott sits her down, grabbing her cold hands. You're in pain, he says, startled. Lydia shakes her head. Just my head, ears. It was the blast. Derek places a blanket over her, reclining the seat a little. Why don't you get some rest now? We'll take care of Stiles and keep an eye on him." Lydia nods, grasping Malia's hand as she closes her eyes. "Just a minute or so," she mutters, before she falls asleep. Scott moves back to the cockpit and plugs in the headset as he shuts the compartment door. "Is Lydia all right?" Dr. Wills asks. "I'm not sure," Scott admits. "She's moving on adrenaline right now, but I think she's hurt too, even though she won't say it aloud. We'll keep an eye on her." "Her head? Ears?" "Yeah, I think so." "Make sure she doesn't sleep too deep. She might have a slight concussion." Troubled, Scott sighs deeply. "Will Stiles be okay?" he asks with a small voice. "He'll be fine if you get the fevers down," Dr. Wills reassures him. "Why don't you get some rest too? You sound like you need it." Scott smiles. That is the last thing on his mind. He returns to the back of the plane and kneels down, staring at Stiles' sleeping form. Gently, he touches his friend's skin, constantly checking for fevers. As he looks up, Derek stares at him, troubled. They are far from okay.